只能是跟在人家后面爬行。所以在80年代中期的时候，我就觉悟到，像西方的马尔克斯也好，什么这个像胡克纳也好，是吧？像海明威也好，我觉得他们都像这个炼钢的这种火炉子一样是灼热的。如果我们靠得太近的话，自己就被烤掉了、化掉了、蒸发了，是吧？我们必须远远地离开他们，必须要千方百计地写出一种跟他们不一样的小说来。那么这就需要回头向民间去寻找啊，向民间故事、口头传说、民间文化、民间口语里面去寻找啊。也就是说，我想文学的真正的这种丰富的这种资源，还是隐藏在民间。当然，我这个民间并不仅仅是指这种偏僻的、荒凉的农村，是吧？城市也是民间，是吧？香港也是民间啊，它不过是广义的、另有意义的民间。所以，我想这个，包括我个人在内啊，中国80年代以来的这种文学，实际上是借助了这2种力量，就借助了西方的翻译过来的小说。因为中国作家能够直接读西方原文小说的人并不太多，可以说是凤毛麟角。大部分是依靠了翻译家的文本。那么靠这种西方的这种小说，对我们自己的文学观念产生了一个巨大的冲击，就使我们从1949年到1979年这30年来长期的灌输给我们这套保守的、固定的党派的文学观念土崩瓦解，是吧？然后作家的思想真正的解放。然后又从自己民间里边、个人的生活里边汲取了创作资源，这才有了当今这种中国小说这种现状，这才有了可以勉强的让葛浩文教授愿意翻译的小說。
莫言喺演講裏邊所提及嘅葛浩文，現任美國聖母大學東亞語言文學系嘅研究教授。葛浩文係現當代中國文學著名嘅翻譯家，30多年以嚟，透過翻譯將中國小說向西方介紹。佢翻譯過嘅作家包括蕭紅、巴金、莫言、白先勇等等20多位嘅作家，合共40多本嘅作品。佢翻譯最多嘅有2位，分別就係民國時代嘅作家蕭紅同埋當代作家莫言。夏志清曾經指葛浩文係中國現當代文學嘅首席翻譯家。莫言嘅小說係葛浩文所特別推薦嘅，至今由葛浩文所翻譯並已經出版嘅係有《紅高粱家族》、《天堂蒜台之歌》、《走國》、《風雨肥團》以及一本短篇小說集，另外仲有2本正在翻譯之中。究竟呢一位外籍嘅中國文學教授眼裏邊嘅莫言，又係一位點樣嘅人物呢？就等我哋從佢口中裏邊去了解一下啦。
Moyen is not just a writer, he's a phenomenon. He said at dinner last night how strange it was for someone who had only a 5th grade education to become a doctor, a PhD. For those of us who know him, and now for all of you who have listened to him, what's strange is not the PhD, the honorary degree, but that a writer who is considered China's most accomplished novelist, someone who's won international prizes almost everywhere, who has encyclopedic knowledge of China's culture and history. What's strange is not the PhD, but that he never quite made it to middle school. He is an astonishing figure, and I have to come clean. He's my favorite writer. As a reader, I say that. As a translator, I say that. I'm finishing up 41炮, 炮孩子的那本. And so I met him when we were together last night. I said, how are you doing? He said, well, I've just completed the latest novel, 刚刚交卷了. Told me the name, and I said, 不会跟那个丰乳肥臀那么长了吧? 他说不会的，绝对不会，这本才40万字了。I am not Moyen's only translator, obviously. There is rather a large cadre of people out there in the world who are translating Moyen's fiction. In Japan, Fuji Shozo is one of the great scholars of Japan. He bought into Moyen very, very early. There's an Italian woman who is always a step ahead of me in translating, and at least one couple in France who jump to each one of his novels and translate the whole damn thing. I tend to run into editors who want to chop him up a bit. And then there's a whole range of other translators, some of whom translate from Chinese, some of whom, I'm ashamed to admit, have to translate from my English, those in Israel, Spain, Portugal, places where Chinese translators do not grow on trees. My background with Moyen starts at about the time Moyen became a pretty well-known writer. I was in Harbin, spending the year in Harbin in 1986, 87, and I ran across a book. I forget the title. It was something like 小说在1985年的小说这么那一类的东西. And there was one story by Moyen. I think it was Bao Zha. I said, gee, this is not something that one sees all the time. And I ran into an old friend who said he had just signed up 4 writers. He was going to do anthologies of all of their writings. I think it was Han Shaogong and Zhang Chengzhi and Zheng Wanlong and Moyen. I said, I'll tell you what, do 3 and leave one for me. Which one? It was Moyen. It took a while until my good friend Zheng Shuzhan sent me a copy of A magazine, and I can't recall which one it was, but it was the serialization of Moyen's second novel, 天坛算海之歌. It it figuratively blew me away. I said, this is the most remarkable thing I have ever read in contemporary Chinese literature. Later, of course, I found out that this novel of 25, 30字了, I don't know, he wrote within 30 days. I think he said 23 or 24 days. He was a very angry young man, having witnessed a serious breach of security by peasants in his hometown, and wrote this astonishing novel. Some people call it his most ideological novel. I call it his most passionate novel, at least to that point. I wrote to Moyen, didn't know him, said, well, Momo, and I liked your novel, can I translate it? And he wrote back and said, sure, why not? I started it, went to Taipei, had some time on my hands, found a copy of Honggao Jiazu, took it back and read it in 3 nights. For me, that's not an easy thing to do. I like my sleep too much. And I said, this is clearly a breakthrough novel for China. I wrote to him and said, cancel my last. How about I start with Honggao Liang? And he said, sure.